make one phone call, or we can go vegan for 11 years. So that's
Hello everyone and welcome to Turn Off Turn On Ventures. Today I have with me Ben Honan from
Hi.
ClimAccelerator here in Amsterdam. So Ben, could you tell everyone a bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ben from ClimAccelerator, as you said. So I've been working at ClimAccelerator for 4 years now in the investment team. So ClimAccelerator is Europe's largest climate innovation initiative, and we've been running a startup accelerator all across Europe for about 10 years now. And recently, a couple of years ago, started to take equity, kind of like Combinator style. So I run the investment operations at ClimAccelerator, and yeah, that's how I got in touch with you.
Yep.
And here we are having a chat about startups, innovation, climate change, all the fun stuff.
Yeah. Just for the startups that are perhaps watching this video, how best can startups work with ClimAccelerator, and what sort of a journey is that like for startups?
Yeah, so we run quite a few programs actually globally and a few deeper ones inside Europe as well. So it starts very much from your first idea, or even if you don't have an idea, maybe you're just sort of interested in climate change, motivated to start a business or to help somebody else start a business. Then you can sign up for a program we call Climathon, a hackathon, pizza, 24-hour kind of program which runs in about 100 cities around the world each November during our week of action, and there you can meet other people, you can get excited about what the possibilities are, and you meet lots of investors and coaches already at Climathon. And then we have another program called Launchpad, so once you actually have a business idea and you're thinking about maybe registering, you can go to Launchpad and there's an ideas competition. And there's like local finals, national finals, and then a global final. So if you're lucky, you can come to the global finals, which is in always a different exciting location every year. And then ultimately the ClimAccelerator, which is our year-long accelerator program, where you get some funding from the European Union and also a year's worth of coaching and support through a program that we run now all over the world as well. So in Europe it's operated by EIT Climate-KIC, and then we also have a sort of a range of different partners around the world who run the same program in Colombia and in India and in Australia as well. So it's quite interesting. So
And
there's lots of different options depending on where you are in your startup journey, and that's all easy to connect to and sign up for.
And I guess along the same line, I came over to Europe as a sort of younger angel investor trying to learn more about the climate space and the startups and the parties involved. How would you like investors to actually get involved in the climate space?
Yeah, so I think it's interesting how many investors haven't really sat down to think about what net zero means for their existing portfolio. So I think the most important thing is if you're investing in anything to really think about, well, does that have an economic future in a net zero world? Because it's coming, one way or the other. Even if humans don't bring net zero about, it will still become eventually net zero. And so there's a bit of a question for investors, what are you currently backing and how does that relate to climate change? And then for the ones I suspect you're talking about, which are investors already interested in sustainability and climate impact, then it really helps to be exposed to startups that are bringing about new technology, bringing new ideas, taking what they've learnt in university and bringing it to market. Then it's a great way through programs that we offer to sign up, offer some coaching, some help to startups, get exposed to the pipeline and see which ones you think you can invest in. Yeah.
So investors can sort of join ClimAccelerator programs to offer some sort of support for startups.
Yeah, so we have a investor registration form on our website. So if you go to climatekic.org, you can sign up as an investor, tell us a bit about what region you invest in, what technologies you're interested in, and then we'll have you on our records and we'll get in touch with different pitch days or different invitations to different events as well.
Oh, great. Well, you've been at ClimAccelerator for 4 years, so you must have seen quite a number of startups in these 4 years.
Yeah.
Which area of innovation really kind of excites you, and it's sort of truly something new? that you haven't seen before?
Yeah, I actually find most interesting the startups that are sort of having some sort of social effect as part of what they're doing. So really trying to not just bring about a new technology that takes our current system and makes it more efficient, but rather one that brings about a new technology that also promotes like a societal change in the way that we consume goods, or the way that we use electricity, or the way that we exchange value. So I find it quite interesting when it's not just sort of how the current world works a little bit more efficient, but rather fast forwarding yourself to a net zero economy. What does a resilient society look like? Well, we need much more community cohesion, we need high levels of community trust, and so the startups that are playing with those newer socio-economic models I find quite interesting.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I think that's an area actually I personally feel like investors don't recognize enough. They don't recognize that even if you get the best and most innovative technical solutions to get to net zero, you still require society to be able to move forward alongside that part. And I'm trying to learn myself sort of how to visualize that and be a part of that.
Yeah, and it's a little bit what I was talking about before. So what's your current paradigm that you're investing in? Oh, the current world, which doesn't work, at least for net zero purposes. Yeah. So you really have to spend a lot of time trying to take yourself out of that, your way of thinking, out of your default boxes, and put yourself in 2030 or 2050 and say, well, what does it look like when you can't have a plastic juice cup? That's what you had this morning. So yeah, it's an investment in your own capability to think forward, and that's where I find quite interesting some of the work that we've done with UNESCO about futures literacy and getting familiar with the future and literate. You can read it, you can learn how to use future and for your own thinking. I find that quite interesting part of our work that we do as well.
Yeah. I like to ask this question because I interview people who are very focused and very experienced in their fields. They often know certain truths that the general public don't know. Are there any interesting realities that the public perhaps have misconceptions about?
I always say never put a conspiracy in place of ineptitude. So I find like there's a lot of people think like, oh, there's a grand conspiracy around climate change or climate inaction. And I've sort of been working in the space now for a long time. I don't think there is a grand conspiracy. I think it's just lots of people who are sort of acting in their own self-interest, and it's a sort of system problem rather than an evil plan, as it were. So I think that's maybe something to like. The person on the other side is not necessarily a bad person, and it's a lot of times these little miniature conflicts arise where there's a real battle sense of thing, and a lot of anger comes into the debate, especially when you start talking about just transition and sort of taking people out of the coal regions or changing whole work-life paradigms. It's a very stressful thing to do, and I think it's helpful to come with a sense of charity and generosity rather than a sense of anger and attack to the climate debate. And then I'm trying to think more specifically about something technical. And I like a basic question I got from a professor a long time ago in our community, which was like, by how much do you need to reduce emissions to cap climate change at 2 degrees? Okay, let's say 4 degrees. Let's say hypothetically. Do you know how much by? Like 20%, 60%, 80%?
4 degrees? 75%?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh.
So no matter what temperature you want to hit, even if it's 4, 5, 6 degrees, you still have to get to net zero. You still have to stop adding carbon or greenhouse gases to the atmosphere, because the more you add, the hotter it will get. So if you want to stop warming at any level, you have to get it to zero. Or even now, talking about negative emission technology. and negative emission interventions are quite important too.
Mm.
So that's also a little bit of a misconception, you know, a 30% reduction by 2030 as a target, or whatever the target is. It's a little bit irrelevant because you have to get all the way to zero and then below zero before you're really doing anything.
Yeah, actually that's a good point, because there is a lot of conversation about what the targets should be, but like you said, the only way to get there is zero or less.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
And actually, if you look at all charts, every chart I've seen this year at least has now a good 10-year period in it of negative emission.
Yeah.
Where the scientists are saying, well, you've left it too late now. You can't just get to zero. Now you have to get below zero and start taking carbon out in order to hit 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees. Yeah. So we've got a bit of work ahead of us.
There is a lot of work ahead of us, and I guess to end off on that point, what's the best kind of actions you think people can do to start heading in this direction?
I always like the power of the form. So most people have a form that they own where somebody else can fill it in and ask for something. You know, if you're a startup, it's a purchase form. If it's us, it's a grant form. You know, if it's a large corporate, it might be like a request to another department. And it's helpful just to think about, well, what can I add to that or take out of it that would result in a more sustainable outcome? And a great example here is that when I joined, we didn't explicitly include sustainability as one of our procurement requirements for suppliers. So when we hired a camera guy or somebody to install lights, we didn't specifically ask about their sustainability credentials or their emissions profile, but now it's on the form, and now we ask, and now we choose based on that. So there's just little tweaks you can add to usually a form, which then results in a daily nudge for everybody who uses it. Oh, actually these people care about sustainability, they're interested in climate change, they would reward me for taking climate action. So I always encourage people, find a form that you're in charge of, and change the form, and that will then in a way sort of bring everything, layers and layers of nudges into the system is important. The other most important thing you can do is call your pension fund or your superannuation fund, your retirement savings, and tell them to stop putting your money into oil and gas because they're still doing it. And everybody I know will be retiring well after those companies are not very valuable anymore. So that phone call can actually have quite a large impact. About equivalent to 11 years of veganism was one stat that I saw. So make one phone call or you can go vegan for 11 years. So I say, personally, I'll go for the phone call.
That's actually, I kind of got stuck on that point that you mentioned, that by the time we retire, these companies would probably not be very valuable anymore. So that change in how we invest in our retirement is actually good for us as well. Yeah. Wow, I think that's really good advice and really easy to execute advice.
Everybody can do it.
Yeah.
And then that also sends ripples through the financial industry and says, oh, hang on a minute, all of our customers are changing what they want. I have to get more serious. And still to this day, you talk to like professional institutional investors that they've never sat down to read an IPCC report because it's not core business. They're too busy looking at quarterly reports, but they would read one if all of a sudden all of the customers ran up to ask. So,
Wow, thank you so much, Ben. That was really insightful.
No worries. Yeah. It's great to have you in Amsterdam, and I hope you enjoy your little bike ride across Europe.
A little bike ride. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ben.
Great. Thanks.
Bye.